Now moment, things are pretty good, aren't they? Yeah, it's pretty good, pretty good. So we're talking about this idea of life more abundant. I love that terminology. Those of you who are Bible scholars will recognize that from some Bible verse. I'm not sure which one. But it also is some of the language that Eric Butterworth uses in spiritual economics, that kind of old-fashioned languaging that gives us an invitation to step into a more abundant way of experiencing our life on a day-to-day basis in the now moment. I like that idea. So I looked up the definition of abundance, and I was kind of surprised to find that the dictionary really supports the theme of our talk today. This idea, do you know what abundance means? A very large quantity of something, unspecified, right? Richly supplied. Overflowing fullness. See, it's not specific. It doesn't say a lot of money. It doesn't say a lot of credentials. It doesn't say that. It says of something. Something. Wow, that's pretty open. That's pretty vast. That's pretty expanded. So this idea of abundance is open to interpretation. We get to decide what abundance looks like for us, right? Wow. What I know is, if we're looking at something, it could be anything. It could be curly hair. It could be rainfall, right? It could be friends. It could be all kinds of things. Crops, love, whatever. But what it isn't, because I think a lot of times we are very pigeonholed about what we think abundance is. What it isn't is a pot at the end of the rainbow. That's not abundance. It isn't winning the lottery. Now in my house, we buy the lottery tickets most every week, hoping, right? Hoping for the abundance. But that's not it. It isn't, and I remember our prior spiritual community, part of the blessing for the offering was always about the windows of heaven opening up and shower, It's not about the windows of heaven opening up and showering $100 bills down upon us. That's not it either. That's not it. That's just not it. It isn't about stuff. Abundance is way bigger than stuff. And so we have a pretty narrow definition usually of what we think abundance is, yes? We think that it's, what we can see on the surface. And of course, as Americans, I think we're entitled to be influenced by what we think abundance really is, because we are bombarded constantly by images of abundance, right? By advertising. What does it look like to be abundant in our culture? Well, probably the right labels on your clothing, probably the right car, probably the right vacations, probably, all of the things that we see that are so enticing for us. And we spend a lot of our time, when we think about abundance, on the surface of our experience of life. On the surface of our experience of life. Those conspicuous symbols of abundance that pop up everywhere and that they encourage us to obtain, to buy, to procure. This is how it's supposed to look when you're abundant. Life is supposed to look like this when you're abundant. And what I can tell you is that right now, in our American culture, especially with the politics and with our upcoming election, there's a lot of focus, have you noticed, on haves and have-nots. There's a lot of focus on poor people and people who aren't poor. There's a lot of focus on the 1% and everybody else. This idea of evaluating where you are in life based on those kinds of criteria, how it's supposed to look. And we look around us and we see staggering wealth, don't we? We see staggering wealth everywhere. It's supposed to look like an ascot and jets and lots of money in your pocket and yachts and all that kind of stuff. Certain stuff, it's got to be certain stuff. Can't be a garden in your backyard. Can't be loving friends. Those are just sort of on the sidelines of what we're being promoted to think is abundance and part of what we really need in life. And don't get me wrong, because I like stuff. I like stuff. I like a nice house. I like to drive a nice car. I like to dress this human body up in fun things. So don't get me wrong. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with stuff. But what I am saying is, stuff just makes the journey more enjoyable. Stuff isn't the abundance. And so often it seems like it is. But it's just the part of, it's the play. We get to play with stuff. I love what Eric Butterworth says. He says, there are so many people who have a pocket full of symbols of substance, he calls it. Money, Rolex watches, fancy whatever. So many people have pockets full of these symbols of substance, and yet they're worried, they're afraid, they're lonely, they can't find passion or purpose. And so for that kind of a mindset, there isn't true abundance. They're really poorer than somebody who doesn't have any of that stuff. Because it's, when you've got fear and lack and worry going on in your life, it doesn't matter what you've got in your pocket. So I like what the authors are telling us, combination of authors. Abundance really is everything that you come in contact with in your daily journey in life. It's everything, it's everyone, it's every aspect of your life experience. Abundance doesn't leave anything out. So there is abundance in nature, there is abundance in our relationships with each other. There is abundance in time, there is abundance of beauty. There's abundance everywhere, all the time. And guess what? It's nothing out there. It's an inner experience. It's how, like Linda's opening remarks, it's the attitude that we bring to our experience. It's the attitude that we bring to whatever is presenting itself to us in the moment. It's this fundamental sense of well-being within whatever is going on in our life journey. It is that freedom that allows us to stand within that, whatever's going on, and feel like we can trust life. Feel like we're okay. Tap into that. This deepest, purest expression of who we are, not what's going on out there. We bring a sense of abundance with us wherever we go. And when I'm talking about abundance, I'm really talking about this basic sense of well-being. Knowing that the universe is part of our journey and supporting us. Knowing that when we are aligned with our awareness of the divine, it goes with us. It goes with us. Open to the preciousness of every moment, and that way we can respond creatively. See, a lot of us have areas of our life where we don't have as much stuff as we'd like. Maybe we don't have the perfect living circumstance. Maybe we don't have the perfect job that's giving us the perfect amount of money that we would like to have. Maybe we don't have all of the relationships that we would like to have in our life experience. Maybe we're not seeing whatever it is that we want to see in our lives. We're not seeing it yet. But when we open to this idea of abundance, about trust, and about this basic sense of well-being, what happens is we can bring from within ourselves a creative awareness of this, whatever this thing offers us. And I like what Butterworth says. He says, you have the capacity to feel abundant even when you don't have any tangible proof of that. Because it's an inside-out job. It's a concentric experience. It comes from in here, and you bring yourself to that. Abundant living isn't perfect life, let me tell you. This concept of having a sense of well-being, of trusting life, stuff is still going to go on. Relationships are still going to crumble. We're still going to lose jobs. We're still going to maybe not be able to meet the mortgage. We're still going to have health challenges. All this stuff is still going to go on. But within that, we can bring an attitude of abundance and a sense of well-being within that, you see. Doesn't mean that life has to be perfect before we can feel like we're in an abundant have a large quantity of whatever, love, trust, whatever that is. It's like knowing that life is blessed no matter what, within the circumstances. So I'm going to share a story of someone in our community. She's not here today. She had planned to be here today, but she's not feeling well. She's developed a pneumonia. But I want to talk about Nancy, our beautiful friend Nancy. Those of you who know Nancy. Nancy recently went to the hospital, outpatient surgery. She expected to come home in the afternoon to have a procedure. And guess what happened? Unbeknownst to her and her doctor, actually, because it went, whoa, we're not going to be doing that surgery today. On the spot, everything shifted. Diagnosis of cancer and a mastectomy. And she didn't come home till the next day. And it was stunning for her. But when I called her to see how she was doing, and this is what I want to talk about, this idea of abundance, a sense of well-being. When I called to see how she was doing, I said, how are you doing, Nancy? Oh, everything just went my way. Everything worked out to my advantage. They got me right in. They didn't have a bed for me. They let me stay in the pre-op room. Everything's perfect. Of course, I have this drain, and I won't be horsing around too much. Nancy's in her mid-80s. Won't be horsing around too much till that thing's out. But, everything's just really, really worked out to my advantage. Everything's just perfect. I'm just doing really good. Strong voice, I couldn't believe it. And I said, so Nancy, are you in any pain? Oh, no, I have no pain at all. She said, pretty sore. I'm pretty sore, but I have no pain. So are you hearing what I'm saying? This is an extreme example where this beautiful soul has lost a part of her body. It hit her like instantly, like, oh my gosh, unexpected. Yet she brought this grace of well-being and trust to this experience in the moment, right now, like Melissa's song. She brought that with her. Do you think that she's going to recover very quickly? Her sister told me, Nancy's getting a little cranky. I think she's getting well. She's not here today. She's driving, by the way. This is a week later. She's driving, and she planned to be here today, but due to the procedure and all those things, she's developed a little bit of a pneumonia. And so she's not with us this morning. But I want to tell you that she has an abundance of courage, an abundance of creativity to, go with the flow, not moan and complain because she doesn't have a bed. Go ahead and just stay in the pre-op room till it's time to go home. Not, lament over this whole thing. She even said, of course, I have a hole there. They tell me I can have reconstructive surgery. Heck, I'm just going to wear falsies. So, creative way. Do you understand what I'm saying? If you could take your own, whatever your thing is right now that you're going through, and approach it from that perspective. Just move on. Just get on. Have this sense God's in charge. Everything's going to be fine. I'm going to move on through this with a sense of grace. Amazing amount of abundance in that experience. Abundance of friends, abundance of people praying. She said, I felt everybody's prayers. She was on our prayer list. I felt the abundance of prayers coming from common ground. That really helped out. This is what abundance is about, folks. This is what abundance is about. It's not what is going on or what we don't have or what all that stuff is. It's how we show up in the experience. It's the attitude that we bring to whatever is going on in face of whatever that is. We've all got stuff. Anybody not got stuff going on? I got stuff in my life for sure. But when we can bring this sense of well-being to that, it makes everything different. And I love what, I think it's Deepak Chopra says this, you're always as abundant as you think you are. You are always as abundant as you allow yourself to be, as you think you are, within your circumstances. That's a big thing to wrap your mind around. I am as abundant as I allow myself to be, as I think I am. That's amazing. So, that points to the story, which is why I've got this image up here. It's a very old Buddhist story. It's a story about a beggar and a very wealthy man, and the wealthy man is going down the road in his chariot or whatever, and he sees a beggar drunk by the roadside, and he feels compassion for the beggar, so he scoops him up, puts him in the chariot, and takes him to his home, feeds him a meal. The guy stays drunk through the whole thing, really isn't very present, but the wealthy man is feeling a lot of compassion for him. So he tucks a pearl into his left, a very precious pearl, by the way, into his left pocket, hoping that when he sobers up and comes to, he'll find the pearl and start a business and get out of this cycle of, laying by the side of the road in a drunken stupor as a beggar. And so, the wealthy man thought he had done a great thing. He didn't tell him about the pearl. He couldn't, because he wasn't present enough to know. So the guy goes away, and 3 years later, the beggar comes back to the wealthy man's house. He's still a beggar, and he's still a drunken person, still not a present person in the world. And the wealthy man looked at him and he said, "What happened? What about the pearl? What about the pearl I gave you? What did you do with the pearl?" And the guy goes, "What pearl? What are you talking about? I don't know what you're talking about." And the guy goes, "Well, I gave you a pearl. I put it in your left pocket." And the guy goes, "Oh, that pocket. I never use it, since I never have anything to put in it." This idea that it's all right there. We've got it all right there, but we don't tap into it. We're not seeing it. And Deepak Chopra says that the universe is very willing to allow us to stay in our boundaries. It respects our boundaries. So if we're not seeing the abundance around us in whatever way it's showing up, whether it's in friendships, in love, in support, in prayer, in, divine order, whatever that is, if we're not opening up to that, guess what? It's beyond our boundaries, and we're just not going to see it. We're going to miss it. Do you ever know anybody that has an incredible stock portfolio and all this stuff going on, and they're telling you that they're poor? They're telling you they're poor? Yeah. That they don't have enough? Outside of the boundaries of their awareness, you see. A mind closed, Deepak Chopra says, a mind closed off to abundance will look out on the world of scarcity and be immune to any evidence of abundance. Whether it's health, whether it's financial, whether it's relationships, whether it's love, whether it's support, whether it's divine order, whether it's, the presence and power of the divine. But when we have an open mind, when we know who we are, when we know that we bring abundance from within, guess what? He says, we look out on that same world, whatever it is, and we see infinite possibilities and an infinite expression of abundance. I think that's amazing. When you have a mindset of abundance, you see it everywhere. You don't build a little box around what it needs to look like. So here's your invitation. Your invitation is to live more abundantly. Live your life in a more abundant awareness. Eric Butterworth uses the metaphor of the cup. Allow your cup to be overflowing. He says a lot of us take a really tiny cup to the fountain. We take a tiny little cup, and some of us take a cup and keep it upside down so that it can't be filled. We need to know that abundance is there for us, and that we get to decide how big the cup is, what our perspective of this abundant nature of the universe is, and whether or not we take a big cup, a little cup, or an upside down cup to the fountain. So expand your boundaries. If you're feeling limited, if you're feeling like there's no abundance in whatever area of your life is giving you some sort of concern, expand your boundaries around that. Expand your boundaries around that. Open to the now moment. Open to the preciousness of this moment. And then when you do that, just like Nancy did, you're able to respond creatively to whatever life brings to you. so that you can open to all of the grace of the abundance that's in that moment, right then, and that allows you to participate fully with the divine and co-create your life in a way that allows all of this abundance to flow to you, through you, and as you in the universe.